It's literally like a foreign language. When you run a quote for an Advantage plan, whether you do it yourself or someone's pushing or selling something to you, you literally don't know what you don't know. And so it's so hard to analyze. There could be dozens of plans. What is the right one for you? How do you avoid the bad ones? We're going to dig into a 3-step simple rule. It's called the triple threat that we use all day long to filter out all the plans that are not going to be a good fit. This alone will save your sanity. It'll save you money and time. So let's get right into what is the triple threat. Before we do that, we're going to talk about a couple basics and then we're going to dive right in because we got to save money and we got to save sanity. Let's go. All right, before we dive into our 3-step process, the triple threat, we got to get some basics out of the way when we do an Advantage plan. The 2 biggest complaints people have is, I can't see my doctors and it's not covering my medications. So when we run our quote and we give access to free, fast, upfront quotes below, and of course we can do that for you with a zip code and date of birth. But before we start, you have to put in your doctors that you want and or hospitals. We got to take out that complaint. The second one is we have to put in our medications and dosages. So now that we have those 2 things in, we can filter plans accordingly. That's a huge deal. You're going to get rid of all kinds of plans just with that. So make sure to enter that in. The only other caveat is there are certain specialized filters for plans that may be applicable. Meaning, are you eligible for Medi-Cal? If so, then you may want to look at one of the special need plans up top where it says show special need plans or D-SNPs or C-SNPs. D-SNPs for dual, meaning you have Medi-Cal and Medicare. Or do you want one of the new kind of plans like the Give Back plan where it pays towards your Part B premium that you pay every month? Those are really popular right now, probably getting close to 20% of the Advantage market. You can filter for those. Even when we start to filter for certain types of plans and certain things we want, HMO, PPO, by carrier, you name it, there could still be 10, a dozen, 20, 30, 40 plans. So, especially in areas like LA. So how do we then really analyze these? Let's look at the 3 pieces that are so important that they will filter out most of those plans and it'll make it so much easier, and make sure you find a plan that's closer to working for your needs. Let's get right into it. Triple threat, are you ready? Let's go. All right, the first part of our triple threat is kind of an easy one. It's your monthly premium. And it can range anywhere from $0 up to $100+ with a Advantage plan. So we really have to look at that because the whole point of an Advantage plan is to cut our costs down, right? Otherwise, we could get a Medigap plan at age 65 for maybe around $130, $150. If we're paying $100 for an Advantage plan, why are we making that trade-off? And we have a whole video on supplements versus Advantage plans. But usually people are after an Advantage plan because they can cap their exposure with Medicare. That 20% out there, there's no cap if you just have Medicare. That's a huge risk. So if we can pay $0 in premium for an Advantage plan that will cap that exposure and still work with doctors and our medications, okay, that could be a good fit. So we got to look at that premium. That's right off the bat our first part of the triple threat. Let's now dive into the back end. So that's our cost up front, the premium. What about our costs on the back end if we get sick or hurt? Let's look at the second piece of our triple threat. This drives us crazy. Everyone out there is pushing Advantage plans, and it's brokers, carriers, you name it, right? And they're always talking about, oh, you're going to get vision and dental and steak knives. And yeah, I'm old enough to remember the whole steak knife thing, and you order one, you'll get a second pair. But they're not talking about the key piece. They'll say, oh, $0 premium, but they're not looking at the back end. When we get sick or hurt, what are we on the hook for, right? There's no free ride in the universe. We're at 65 plus, you're old enough to understand that. So we have to look at the out-of-pocket max. That's a really important piece. What that does is it says if we have really big bills in a calendar year, January through December, or a series of bills or, lots of medications, you name it, at what point does it go 100% to the carrier if we stay in network and go by the rules of the plan? Well, it's interesting. This can really differ depending on the type of plan you pick and then where you are. So LA is super competitive, and you'll have plans with like $199, $200 out-of-pocket maxes. That's fantastic. That means if we have a lot of big bills, we get up to $200, the carrier basically takes over for the remainder of the year in network for covered benefits. That's awesome. If you go to other areas, we go up Bay Area, up north, even down to San Diego, all of a sudden those out-of-pocket maxes may be $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. Ooh, okay, so if I got a lot of bills or really big bills, and am I going to be okay with $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000? That starts to tweak the decision a little bit, right? We have to look at that versus, for example, a supplement, which has very little out of pocket, like a G plan, but you pay up front, or even some other Advantage plans. And what you'll find is sometimes the premium will be super low, and maybe they give you a give back or some kind of robust option, or a PPO with more flexibility. But the trade-off is that out of pocket creeps up $1,000 or $2,000 or more. There's a trade-off there, and we have to look at that piece, because the whole point, the reason we're getting an Advantage plan is to protect us from big bills or a series of bills, so we're not on the hook for thousands of dollars, right? We all agree on that. So don't get hornswoggled with that zero premium up front and all the freebies and the gift cards, the flex cards you can get, and all this great stuff when you may be on the hook for $4,000 or $5,000 on the back end. One caveat there, if it's a Medi plan, some of those can have like $8,000 max out of pockets, but that's because Medi-Cal is going to pick that up. It's going to absorb a lot of your costs. And so that $8,000 isn't a true representation if you have Medi-Cal, right? If you just go get that plan without Medi-Cal, you could be on the hook for $8,000. You don't want to do that. So there's a little caveat, but the out-of-pocket max is our second leg of the triple threat, because it looks at what's our exposure if we have big bills or a series of bills on the back end. You got to look at that out-of-pocket max. Let's go to our third leg of the triple threat to round this all off. We've talked about the two other legs of our triple threat, the cost up front. We talked about the cost on the back end, the out-of-pocket max. Now let's really address the pinch point of Advantage plans. Look, again, there's nothing for free. So if we're getting a plan for zero premium with a low out-of-pocket max, let's say $200 down in LA, and there's some solid carriers down there that offer that, what are we giving up, right? Because you look at it, a Medicare supplement, it could be easily $150 at age 65, not very much on the back end because you just have the Part B deductible at $250 roughly. So what are we giving up? Because it's zero premium, something has to give. This is why it's so critical that we look at the star rating. The star rating is a reflection of how prior or existing members look at that plan, how it feels on a day-to-day basis. And that's going to address that piece about what we're giving up with an Advantage plan. If an Advantage plan is difficult to deal with, I can't get referrals out, I have to fight with them, they're not paying, I can't see doctors on time, it's going to all trickle down to that star rating. So we definitely want a plan with 4 stars or higher. There are situations, we run quotes all day long for people, where there are 2 plans, they look about the same. Zero premium, the max out of pocket's comparable. One will be a 3-star, one will be a 4 or 4.5 or 5-star. I'm going to go with a 4 or 4.5 star. Unless there's a network difference, meaning this plan is the only one that takes my doctor, I'm always going to opt up for that 4-star because it speaks to what we're giving up with an Advantage plan, what the trade-off is. And look, that in the end is how happy or not happy you are with the plan. That star rating of 4+ stars reflects that people are generally happy with that plan. A 3-star is pretty meh, not great. And below that, deal breaker. You don't want to do it. This keeps the carriers honest and makes sure that they work hard on behalf of the clients to keep them happy within the plan. It's doing everything it should be doing. Because remember, that is a trade-off with an Advantage plan. That star rating reflects how little you're going to have to trade to get that zero premium, that low out-of-pocket max, and all the other little added benefits that come along with an Advantage plan. That's the triple threat. Your premium, your out-of-pocket max, and the star rating. That addresses 80% of the issues. Reach out to us for the other 20%, especially around network and doctors and hospitals, which is a little trickier, right? But that's unique to each person. The triple threat anyone can use to narrow it down once you put in your doctors, your medications. Of course, reach out to us, zero cost for assistance. Just need zip code, dates of birth, doctors, medications, and we can get to work for you right away.